Hi everyone, welcome to this video. Today we decided to talk about something that we know it's important, which is how you perceive yourself when you are single. A lot of times when we have family gatherings or gatherings with friends that we don't see for a while and they want to have some updates on our current life, our current situation, one of the common questions that pop up is, are you in a relationship? Are you with someone? How's your love life? And that creates a huge pressure. Sometimes it might create a huge pressure. So we decided to just openly talk about this and to brainstorm, to bring some ideas on the table, some ideas for reflection. Of course, it's something that somehow falls on us by the society. So we realize that even though we might not perceive our value associated to being in a relationship, society might feel that it is actually connected to whether we are in a relationship or not. So that's the topic for today. I pass the word to my friend and colleague Valentina, and let's start.
Thank you, Nanti, and hi to everyone. I think it's a really huge theme. Most of the people really feel this, like this pressure from the family, as you said, and from the society, first of all. I think that we have a lot of limiting beliefs in that team around that team because for example I heard too much about not so clearly sometimes but very you can feel it like you don't worth if you are single, you don't worth so much if you don't uh, are with someone. And this really it seems like something in the air that can't affect you, but uh, just because it's in the air, it's so common, and for the people they are so used to talk about it and feel it that really can affect our sense of value. And I think that it's very important to go and see these limiting beliefs that are most of all from society, as we said, and really take awareness, first of all, of this. Because the first step is okay, I can see it. I can see that there is a huge limiting beliefs that affects my life, that affects my sense of value, that affects my way of living. Because sometimes this can create, different reactions. There are somebody that can feel less valuable if there aren't in a couple. So, for example, is always searching for someone in an unconscious way. It's like, okay, I split up now, and then in 2 days, okay, I'm on. Yeah, I knew someone, there is so great, so cool. Yeah, okay, stop, because we need this time of breathing and reconnecting with ourselves after a breakup. So it's also important, this single time, and can be a short time, can be a long time, doesn't matter. The most important thing that when we are single, we really feel that we are valuable, because we are valuable as person, um, even if we have a couple or even if we don't have a couple. It doesn't matter. So this pressure, I think it's very important. Then I think there are others themes, for example, this to be chosen, because when we are single, we feel, sometimes we can feel that we are alone and nobody are choosing us, and this comes from very very young age. And yeah, what do you think about it, Nanti?
Absolutely. I think you touched a very important point here because, as you said, a lot of people feel like if I'm alone, if nobody chooses me, it means that I'm not enough, I'm not desirable. So maybe it's not even the need of being in a relationship per se, but more like the need of feeling wanted, you know? And that is something we associate with external validation, wanting to have some sort of confirmation of what is our value of us being feeling beautiful and desirable, and and that is something that when we receive a confirmation from a person that's out of us, an external person, that type of validation is what we're seeking in that moment. But it's very tricky because it's not something that can bring a long-term stability, a long-term self-esteem, self-worth, because the moment, first of all, it doesn't depend on you. So what happens if that validation doesn't come? What happens if that appreciation doesn't come, and also at the time you need that to come, you know? So it's very, very tricky and can lead to even more problems in your self-esteem. So it would be important to start to disconnect these two parts, relationships, or appreciation that we receive from self-worth, because the two things are not connected. We need to have our go ahead, we need to have our own support, we need to appreciate ourselves, to like ourselves. Of course we all have insecurities and we all have self-doubt. That's part of life, but it's also part of life to learn how to manage that self-doubt, how to learn from it. To We want to, of course, improve, but also improvement comes from a place where we love ourselves deeply as we are first, and then from there we can start building on something new that has the characteristics that we want. But it's very, very important to first really love ourselves for who we are unconditionally. Otherwise, you start to look at yourself with lenses that are not realistic. You see yourself in a bad way. You start to not appreciate yourself and so on. And this is really risky because you really give away your power. Your power is when you learn how to use your mind as something that is useful for you, and you learn how to train it to be your amazing servant, your supporter, your number one supporter, something that can really say, you got this, okay? You're amazing. You have everything. You are enough. You don't need anything else. That is the very first step that really empowers you in doing anything in life, really. You can do anything if you have the right mindset. So, yeah, what do you think, Vale?
Totally. I always say we need to be our big motivator, our first motivator, because yeah, the fuel must must born from us. Because as you said, uh, in the other side, yeah, there is it's very tricky and it can lead to something very very bad, when we depend, when we thought that our worth depend on others. And yeah, thinking about this, I think also about comparison. There is something that also I see very often. Yeah, because especially with social media, we can see a lot of lovely couples, and it feels like, okay, you feel good just if you are in a relationship. And it seems that every relationship that we see in Instagram or Facebook, in social media in general, it seems like they are very, very cute and special, and every time they do something special, they never are boring. No, there are, we are humans, so nothing special. We can build, of course, healthy relationships, and even in healthy relationship, we have some great moments and some moments that when we grow up, and sometimes these moments are not so good in the first step. But it I feel that it starts when we are in the gathering, as you said before, in the gatherings, when everybody asks about what's your lovely life, and it feels like, if you said that you are not dating someone or you not have a partner, it seems like, okay, people feels like decepted, because they need this sometimes, this gossip somehow. And it can be that we compare ourselves with our life with other lives. And sometimes there are people that can change too many too many love stories in short time, or people that are in a relationship from long time. And we can feel, especially I think when we are almost 30 above, uh, you can feel this also pressure from the society, as we said before. And this pressure can lead us to compare our lives and feel like, okay, but I have to, you know, it's suppose I have a partner, suppose I have a family, suppose I have child later, and too many things. And I think it's very important also to stop and to feel what we feel inside, and to understand what we really want. Because also sometimes this pressure can lead us to build some life that actually is not the life we want. So it's very important that we stop and go inside, deeply inside on ourselves, and take out all the stuff that are not from us and go into our essence.
Beautiful. Yes, because when we compare ourselves, I understand that, for example, imagine you are a circle of friends and they're all in a relationship, maybe, as you said, around the age of 30 or even older than that, and they start having a family, or even if not, like maybe you are the only one in the group that is single. You might feel like you are falling behind kind of compared to them. You might find yourself, as Valentina said, to compare yourself with their lives. But it's so important to know that each one of us has their own path. So, and when we tend to compare ourselves to someone else, is because we are missing something important, some important information on who we are and what we need to do, on our true path, because our path has nothing to do with anyone else's path. And this is something so important. It applies to everything, really, not only to relationships. So if you really know who you are, if you truly know what you're here for, what you need to do in your life, what experiences you need to do, of course you can't know everything, but you need to feel what feels authentic for you, what is there for you to live. And if you know that, you can't really compare yourself with anything and anybody else, because the things are just not related. So it's just two different universes, you can't really compare. And on the other hand, some people instead really find a relief in not being in a relationship. So that's also interesting, because for some people can feel like an important need, and for some others feels like I never want relationship. Relationship takes away my freedom. I don't trust anybody. So I don't want to feel exposed. I don't want to be involved in anything, in any type of commitment. That's also an important side of it, because for some people, maybe for their past experiences, or maybe for simply the way they look at relationships, they might feel like relationships are the worst, and they just don't want it. And again, that's fine, if that's what you feel like you need, that's okay, as long as it really feels aligned with what you want. Because a lot of times that is also a little bit of an extreme behavior and way of thinking. A lot of times it doesn't represent the reality, meaning that, of course, there are relationships that limit your freedom, but those relationships are probably not the ones you want to attract in your life ultimately. So there are also relationships where you can be free, where you can be yourself, where you don't need to do anything that is truly out of who you are, your authentic self. So they exist. A lot of times we tend to think they don't exist, but they do exist. And also, if how can you know if this is what you really want? You need to look inside yourself. So I think that when you feel that something is missing, that is an amazing bell that rings, and that you can listen to what it has to tell you. So, for example, a lot of people really love their single life, and they're like, I can do whatever I want, I love my freedom, I will never be in a relationship, and they seem very happy with it, and that's fine. But then they say, okay, even though I love my freedom and I don't want a relationship, deep inside, I feel alone. And that's normal. It's a normal feeling, because we tend to connect. We have a need to connect deeply. But that is also something that is important to not ignore, and to look at as with curiosity, as an indication of, okay, maybe being single works for me for so many reasons, but if then I feel alone, maybe I should consider dating someone when I really like someone, or allowing myself to like someone. It's it's complicated because it goes to the unconscious mind. So we're not always aware of things, but as we start reflecting on it, things come up. So it's a good starting point.
Yeah, of course. And we hope that these kind of moments when we are discussing about this, when we are coming up something about these issues, these themes, hopefully can help somebody to, especially to understand something about them, to, just to think about, okay, just maybe I can think about it, maybe can feel like this for me. Maybe I can work a little bit more about this because it will be helpful for me for really, really understand who I am, where is my path, as you said, and really understand what to do in my life and how to adjust my um, my beliefs, how to adjust my way of life to my real path, to my real essence. So we hope really that these moments can help you to understand a little bit more, or um, at least to think about something that maybe you haven't thought before. So thank you so much for being here. And it was a pleasure. And please make a comment if you have some questions or some reflections about what we what we said, and we are really, really glad to read you. So thank you very much, and we see you in the next video.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.